most people's lives have just been taken over by talking about shit that does not matter. How are you doing? That's it. Let's just start there. Whew. What color is that? Holy, I'm just looking at it. I'm just realizing how beautiful it is.
Thanks, man.
Sorry, brother.
Yeah, it's a 1970 SS.
Wow, what a ride, bro. That must have juice. V8?
Yeah, 454.
Wow, what a beauty.
Yeah, I just picked it up last week.
Nice. Oh, man, that is nice. Look at that old school. Oh, I love this. Brings me back, man.
Yeah.
Look at it. It's so nice, man. Hey, little guy. Wow. That is nice. Oh, man. Thank you, man, for showing me that.
Hey, pleasure, dude.
Oh, that's awesome.
Have a great day.
You too. Take care. Enjoy the distillery. Man, that's weird. I'm doing a video on authenticity, and I bump into a beautiful old 1970 El Camino. I mean, that's fate. I gotta say, that's fate right there. But yeah, as I was saying, when you look back on the rise of the internet, in particular the rise on social media, you start to also see a rise in conformity, a rise in people trying to be exactly like everybody else. In my humble opinion, I should say, in my opinion, I'd rather be a real piece of shit than a fake piece of cake. One of the things, now obviously I'm a new YouTuber. So as a new YouTuber, I find myself watching lots of different YouTube videos on how do you build an audience, how do you make a YouTube video, how do you create a thumbnail, how do you create a title. And I started doing all these things, learning all these things. And what I noticed, or what was basically a lot of the advice I was getting from doing, from learning how to do these YouTube videos, was just copy everybody else. So basically the advice was find 2 channels that you aspire to be like, or that are like your niche, copy their titles, copy their topics, and just copy them. And basically that was the advice, was find what's got the most views, take their titles, and just do content on stuff that's already proven to be hot, or proven to be appealing to the masses, if you will. So that's a lot of the advice that I'm getting, and that I was getting just from the internet, watching these people. And these people had hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views. What do I know? I'm just some Gen X / Millennial trying to figure out his way through this YouTube world. And one of the things that I definitely don't like is, copying people. Like, I don't have a problem being inspired by people, but just flat out just copying people, I don't know. It's just not for me. And then you start thinking about kind of like this new world that we're in, where if you look at Facebook, if you look at Instagram, if you look at even these YouTube videos, you kind of start to notice that everything starts looking the same. All the YouTube videos are looking the same. All people are all starting to look the same. And it's like the same type of content. And like, you look at the thumbnail and it's like somebody with a fucking exaggerated expression with some stupid catchy title, like the most brutal moment of my life, or stuff like that. And it's just a lack. There's a serious lack of authenticity to it, from what I'm noticing. So as I'm going to build this channel, as I'm trying to do this, one of my focuses, especially being in the Gen X world and in the Millennial world, is I just think that getting back to being a little bit more of an authentic culture, and being more authentic with each other, not trying to copy each other all the time, not just trying to do things for clicks. It's like social media has become the popularity contest. It's like basically your life popularity. Back in the high school, you used to have, you'd have your popularity contest, people that thought they were the coolest, and that was in a small microcosm. But now it's like, if you look at social media, It's become this popularity contest, and popularity is no longer about being unique and individual and being somebody that's cool. It's now about being exactly the same person. So basically, here's your typical influencer, your typical person on the internet, on social media. Oh, look at my fancy cars. Look at my big house. Look at my big booty woman. That's what it's all about. It's not about anything other than that. And you just start seeing that this is the way the world's going. Authenticity does not matter. You know, back in the days, what's going on here? Looks like there's a lot more traffic than normal on a Saturday morning. As I say, but even when it comes down to just having that authentic experience that we used to have back in Gen X and as a millennial, we would actually go out and we would have authentic connections by talking to each other. So I just think back to when I was, like an early teenager. One of the things that we used to do all the time was I remember we'd go for coffee. So, and I'm not talking about Starbucks. I'm talking about like an old school kind of diner where you could order coffee and you could order food, and you would sit there and you get free refills, and you would sit there for hours with your friends, guys and girls, and you back in those days, this is like the mid 90s, early 90s, you could smoke cigarettes, and we would just drink coffee, we would chat, we would smoke cigarettes, we would eat French fries, and we would just hang out. We get to know each other, and it was guys and girls, it was always big groups. So we were always kind of in these situations where we were full contact, always meeting people, always talking to people, and learning how to talk to girls, finding out what makes them laugh, and seeing the cool and listening to them, and just getting to know girls in the flesh, in the real world, and being able to participate in society in a way in which you have to use your wits, you have to use your humor, you have to use all of your faculties. It wasn't just about being 6 foot tall and ripped. You actually had to use everything. That wasn't enough back in the day. You actually had to be an interesting person. You actually had to do and find ways to connect that were different. Now, I don't know okay, that looks like it's good here. Is this, nobody coming this way? But it was one of those things that you had to do. But even when you think about more streets, like this morning, this is just a recent situation where I was up early and I went over to the farmer's market, and I was talking to my butcher at the farmer's market, the guy that was selling the meat, and I was wearing a Clash shirt, and he started singing, "Oh, I love the Clash," and we started talking about the Clash, and then we started talking about punk rock, then we started talking about, there's no Rancid without the Clash, and so on. And then it was just like, it just turned into this really beautiful, authentic connection, having a conversation. I ended up buying my food, and and also getting to know the person a bit. And now I'm looking forward to next week when I go in, I'll probably talk to him about some other punk rock band. And it's just like these little authentic connections that people just aren't used to doing, because people are so used to just having their phones out, or just having, like, even when we go out for if I go out with my friends for beers or for dinner or whatever, I do my very best just to leave my cell phone in my bag and just not have it on the table. I know a lot of people like to have their cell phones on the table, but I'm like, for me, it's like, I do my best to stay in the present as much as I possibly can. If my cell phone's on the table and I have a spare second, I almost always find myself it's a horrible habit of just picking up the phone and looking at it, checking messages, checking YouTube, checking this, checking that. It's just a terrible, terrible, rude habit. Like, why not just spend the time in the present moment with the people you're with? Like, this is one thing that has really been lost and people don't quite understand. It's like, imagine if you were sitting you're out with your friends in the early 90s, and you're eating at, let's just say you're eating at at a McDonald's or something, and you just start completely ignoring your friends and start talking to somebody on a cell phone in those days. Like, you just started to completely ignore them and start talking to somebody else at a different table and pretend like they didn't exist. Like, you would get called out for that. Like, there's no way that behavior would be tolerated back where we're from. So you start just seeing that, you know, you start seeing how the new generation is being bombarded with this social media, with this fake book or this Facebook, where people only post their W's. You know what I mean? Like, life isn't all W's. Like, you're not always winning. Life is a struggle at times, you know? And I find that, you know, that the funniest thing, not the funniest, but something that I find happens frequently is you see a post of, you know, like a husband, wife, kids, dog. Oh, I couldn't be there, like at the beach or something. Maybe they're on a vacation. Happiest moment of my life. I love this guy. I love my family. I love my dog. And then 2 weeks later, oh, just didn't work out. I had to find myself, or something happens where it's no longer the peachy keen relationship that it was once. But I just find that it's that sort of thing happens constantly. And the other thing, when I think about social media, especially Facebook, I guess you could do Twitter too, but like especially Facebook, and I don't have Facebook anymore. I call it fake book. But just everybody has an opinion, but it seems like their opinions all come from the same place. So it's like if you follow a certain celebrity, or if you follow a certain politician, if you follow a certain news channel, if you follow, you just basically, I find that the opinions just seem to be copies of the opinions of the so-called news that they're watching, and it just becomes, and you just, you know, everybody's a doctor, and everybody's has a higher moral ground, and it's just, I don't know, man, it just became so volatile and so toxic and so it was just, I know friends of mine, I know people that have stopped being friends with each other over just the stupidest things because of this. So anyways, as soon as I saw this, how divisive that people were and how much it was on Facebook, I decided that I live in a different city than where I grew up. So I wanted to make sure that when I came back home from Toronto to Regina, that when I saw my friends, I saw them as the people I grew up with, as I see them as themselves. I don't see them as their most recent Facebook post or their most recent tweet or their most recent Instagram picture. You know, I bump into them, I say hello to them, and I talk to them just normal. Because I don't care about, it doesn't matter, honestly. I don't care what your beliefs are. I don't care what your political beliefs are. I don't care who your favorite band is. I don't really care about any of that stuff. How are you doing? How's your dad doing? How's your mom doing? How's your brother? How's your wife? You know, have you talked to so-and-so? Have you talked to so-and-so? Do you want to let's see if we can get everybody together, go for a beer, or let's go have a fire in your backyard, you know? Like, I'm more interested in doing stuff like that rather than talk about what's happening in the wild world of politics. Like, I just find that most people's lives have just been taken over by talking about shit that does not matter. How are you doing? That's it. Let's just start there. Let's get back to when you bump into somebody, you just say, how are you doing? And you want to know how they're doing. And you want to find out what's going on in their lives, right? Have that good conversation. You know, connect in some way. Just find a way to connect with people, that relatedness. Because the phone and the text messaging and the you know, the internet and popular opinion and this stuff is so impersonal that you forget that life is not like that. Life is not a text message. Life is not a Facebook post. Life isn't an Instagram photo. Life is meeting, connecting, and talking to people around you. Life is building a community. Life is finding who you are as a person. Life is finding what you love and letting it create you, you know? So I just think that getting to a return of being authentic and living that authentic life That's got to be priority number one. And that starts with people starting to think for themselves and starting to ignore all the bull crap and just say hello to people and just talk and get back to conversations. You know, rather than, you know, this constant, like, I just couldn't imagine living your life where your goal was strictly to get likes on a post on the internet. Like, that's your whole life. Like, if people like my content, great. I mean, fine. I'm great. I prefer them like it than hate it. But if they don't like it, that's fine. I don't care. Say whatever you want, you know? Lots of people, I get lots of good comments. I get lots of bad comments. I get lots of in-between comments. I get comments on how bad my audio is. I get comments on, you know, saying something like rolling with my crew through my neighborhood. You know, everybody's got an opinion. And I just don't care, because it doesn't matter, because I'm out here doing it and you're not. And it's like one of those things. So when I start thinking about and I start watching these YouTube videos where most of the YouTube videos are just copies of Mr. Beast, or just these you know, sharp cuts, quick edits, fake talk, like be like somebody else, don't be like yourself, you know, just trying to get the viewer to buy something from you, or whatever the case may be. If you got something, great, but it's just phony. It's not real. So what I would like to see coming back, and what I want to do, is I really want to do my best to be myself and talk about authentic things and authenticity and live my authentic life, but also encourage other people to do the same. So, and I do think that just having authentic conversations with people is very important. And that's where it starts. It starts with connecting. It starts with talking to people. It really does. And that's not just your friends. Like, when you go out, actually my uncle's really good at this, my Uncle Les. The guy will go out, doesn't matter where we are, and he is talking to everybody. He's talking to this person, he's talking to that person. Like, we go fishing together. He finds out where the fishing spots are. He finds out where the good place to get a burger is, and you know, he knows all the local, he finds out the local folklore in the area, you know, like, like just by chatting and talking to people. I remember one time we were fishing out in Tobin Lake, Saskatchewan, big lake, and there's some young kids, and they caught a fish, and they didn't know how to carve the fish. So my uncle sat down and showed them, you know, took the time to show them how to fillet a fish, right? Fillet a fish. Like, and he really enjoyed doing that, you know? That's an authentic connection where you're actually teaching somebody something. If you could teach them a skill, great, especially if they want to learn it. But the kid watched my uncle showed him how to do it. And now that kid's got a skill. So now not only is that kid gonna do, and when I say kid, he was probably 20, 19, but now the next time he comes fishing, he's gonna have more confidence to catch the fish, because now he knows he's gonna be able to carve the fish and he's gonna be able to eat the fish. And that just comes from that authentic mentorship, that authentic connection, where somebody's just taking the time to help them out, you know? Stuff like that, taking time to do things like that, that matters, you know. That's connection, that's connecting, you know. Having a meeting up with your group of friends that you grew up with, you know, talking about your lives and talking about maybe the things that you're dealing with, but also the good things. What are your W's? But like, just having those real true, I remember we used to have heart-to-hearts, having heart-to-heart conversations about what really matters in life. You know, what really brings you joy on a consistent basis, you know? It's not all the money, that's not all the stuff that's gonna do it, right? I think that one of the keys to be consistently content is finding ways to connect with yourself, but also finding ways to connect with people. So that's why when I'm talking about Gen X, I'm talking about millennials, and I'm talking about authenticity, we had so much time to be able to do all this because we were always around people. We didn't have a ton of distractions. So we had to go out and explore the world. We had to go out and experience the world. We had to go out and learn how to talk to parents and adults, and we had to learn how to interact with we had to learn how to make decisions for ourselves because we didn't have nobody around telling us what to do. So, that independent spirit that we had. But what we didn't have was we didn't have the specter of social media, the specter of the internet. Like when we were young, it was just some interesting toy. It was like an interesting toy, like a chia pet, You don't realize how insidious it can be. Now, don't get me wrong, just like anything else, the internet is a tool. It can be used for good and it can be used for bad. And the question is, how do you find that balance, right? So one of the things I think is important too is for the people that have lived the life before the internet, Gen Xers and Millennials, and some Gen Zers apparently too, like make sure you tell those stories to your nieces and nephews and to the young generation, and do your best to encourage them, or even yourself, take them out and do things outdoors and do things with people. I think that, and then, letting them know, like, hey man, going outside and doing stuff is super cool. Getting on your bike and ripping around is super cool, And I get it's a different world, but where are all these bikers on the bike walk path here? But it's like, but it still doesn't mean it doesn't mean that you can't go out there and do something. I'm not saying you have to do exactly the same things. But it's just one of those things. So rather than maybe commenting on or liking or just looking at random Instagram posts, go out and see whatever you're watching on Instagram or whatever you're watching on Twitter or whatever you're watching on Facebook, go out and do that thing. If you're watching a skateboard trick, go out and find some kids that are skateboarding and watch them skateboard and watch them do the trick and interact with them and talk to them, find out what they're doing. You're gonna get a lot more out of that experience where you're out there and you're actually with and participating with those people in that moment. I'm telling you, I'm not a big soccer fan, but when I was in Colombia and when I was in Medellin, Colombia, and I went to a soccer game in Colombia, it was a hell of a lot different watching that in person than it ever would be on TV. It was an amazing experience where I got to really see the people losing their minds over goals and singing, chanting, cheers, and everybody was in it together. It was awesome, man. Like, it was a fun experience. And yeah, you can even see some of my shorts. You see some of my shorts when I was in Medellin and I was doing that. But that is getting out there and getting that contact, just doing things in person is so much different than doing things watching it on your screen. Going to a concert in person is a completely different thing than watching a clip on your screen. So finding ways to encourage kids to just go out and be kids. That's the other thing. You're a kid once. Like, enjoy it. Enjoy not having a mortgage. Enjoy not having a job. Enjoy that slice of freedom you have. I was reading in the comments, a lot of people these days, kids these days just self-ground themselves because they'd rather be at home playing on the internet, playing on their phones, than outside doing things. And it's like, get out in the world, man. And that's one of the reasons why I'm out here in the world doing these things. That's why I like to do the walk and talks, because I think it's important to be out there in the world. And I do these, and I go for walks all the time without my camera, just so we're clear. But I just find myself enjoying, just enjoying being out in the wild. Don't get me wrong, sometimes you got to deal with different distractions, but it's all right, man. It's part of what you do. All right, so that brings me to what I'm doing next week, which I think is super exciting. So starting June 16th, so Monday, June 16th, so as of Sunday night at midnight, I'm turning off my cell phone, I'm turning off my internet, and I'm gonna live for a whole week without no cell phone, no internet. I'm gonna do a video every day with my camera. And then the following week, I'm gonna drop a video Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And just talking about my experience of what I've been doing in my life without my cell phone, without the internet. You know, how do I feel? What are some of the challenges I ran into? What are some of the things I did that I normally wouldn't have done? So exciting things. So that's what I'm gonna do. So make sure you tune in. I'm gonna drop another video tomorrow with a little bit more details, but if you're watching this video, look forward to next week, or not next week. Next week, I'm not gonna be dropping any videos. I'm gonna be completely disconnected from the world. I'm going to record my experience. I'm gonna record what I got into, and I'm gonna drop, the following week, I'm gonna drop 7 videos where I discuss, you know, what I did. So 1 week where I discuss what I did for a week without the internet, without my cell phone. So it should be interesting. I'm excited to do it, and we'll see. We'll see, because at the end of the day, as I said before, the internet is a tool, and it can be used for good, it can be used for bad. But let's see, what am I going to get up to with no internet and with no cell phone? All right, so that's it. I'm Matt Ross. I'm the Known Wolf.